I'm so excited that this is actually happening on 11/11/2017. 11 means so many different things to me. It has so many different histories and people and energy connections. And in so many ways, 11/11 is through which we are all passing as we are graduating from one form of being into another form of being. And we are all going through this with different details. It's basically a stripping away of the ego, of the body-related issues that have so preoccupied our energies and our consciousnesses for so long, and stepping into a new way of being with authenticity and with light. And so I'm going to drink some water here. And so to begin this webinar, which I am so grateful that is actually taking place, I ask that each of you close your eyes and come into alignment with every part of your being, your body, your emotions, your mental body, your light bodies, however many light bodies of which you are aware, right up to the very source of your being, the source of all life. And it is to this source that we must all connect from within our own beings, from within our own worlds, our own lives, however they happen to be at this particular time and space that we seem to be occupying. It is this connection that is always available to guide us, to tell us everything that we need to think, do, and say, to be in perfect joy and harmony and love. It is our resistance to this voice, our conscious choice to listen to a different voice, that is the source of all suffering, pain, and even the illusion of death. Hence the subject title for today's webinar. First, we need to be aware of that we have been in order to even want to be free of it. And so we know that anything that provokes fear, pity, pain is coming from this matrix. That provokes love and joy and peace is coming from the source of your own being. And so, as we go about our days, single moment, every single choice that we make, what to eat, what to drink, what to say, what to think, is an opportunity to choose which voice we are going to listen to. And the world that results, that manifests around us, is a direct result of those choices. Those of you who have been with this group for a long time, and those of you who have been on a conscious awakening path for any length of time, and listening and hearing these voices talking within you for a long time. Much of your work has been learning to distinguish these voices as to which voice brings you joy and love and whatever it is you think that you are seeking, and which voices don't. And so each action that these voices guide you towards are either an opportunity to serve, to be of love and healing in the world, or it is of fear and of harm and attack. So your choice is which of these thoughts, voices you are going to express in the world. On the other hand, we who have been doing this for a long time set very high standards for ourselves. Expect a certain kind of perfection. Let us be reminded that this comes from the spiritual ego, part of the lower mental mind. This does not come from the divine mind at all, because the divine mind is totally free of judgment. We must remember that whenever we are engaging in judgment of any kind, not in the divine mind, we are in the lower mind. And so that's the only thing that we can share with our loved ones. Hence, the other part of the subject title, for personal and planetary healing, is we need to remember that everything that we do for ourselves, the wholeness, the oneness that we all are, every time we forgive ourselves for something, every time we forgive anybody else for anything they have ever done, we have a loving, healing act, thought, and emotion, because they are one in that sense. Energy enters the collective consciousness, which I will just call for now the divine collective consciousness. Shit from the matrix. The matrix, the artificial intelligence matrix. The other side, shall we say, of the divine consciousness. And most people still don't realize that they have a choice between experiencing the divine consciousness or experiencing the matrix. That's how stuck they still are. Those of you who are listening to this have been yourself from the matrix for many years. But it is to experience divine consciousness. And I know from my heart that I want to be always stabilized in divine consciousness. And yet, if I were, I would not be going through the processes that I'm going through in order to help others, whatever it is they need to experience, to free themselves of the matrix. They also have to do it through love and forgiveness and through authenticity. So once we are aware that we're no longer here to serve our egos, that we are here to totally be of service, that is when we really want to work on making that connection as constant as we possibly can. This can only be done from within. This can be done at any time and in any place, because this connection and all time and all space, the matrix is a boundary, shall we say, that exists only in time and in space. So whatever you do, be it mind expanding drugs, food fasts, spiritual practices, whatever it is that you do that allows you to experience divine consciousness, shows you that you can free yourself of the matrix. This is what we are here to do now. All of us together. We are freeing ourselves of all limits, boundaries, and fears that exist only in the matrix. Because we have made the choice again every day and every minute of every day to choose love, to choose healing, to choose joy, to choose kindness, to choose mercy. Day-to-day lives, we can all express the divine consciousness through every thought and deed that expresses that divine consciousness. That love, joy, peace, whatever is required in the moment, is only being consciously aware in the moment. Know what is the absolute perfect thing to express. And we only know it after the fact. We allow ourselves to be open for it to come through us without our minds deciding in any way beforehand how it should be. Our bodies or our emotions limiting the expression in any way whatsoever. This is what I have always called channeling. Many people don't like that term because it is an unconscious state or a connection to beings outside of oneself, which is an aspect of that whole ship type of thing. But for me, channeling has always been a connection to, shall I say, greater and greater aspects of myself. Because as we become one with everything, we expand in all directions, and there's not a higher and a lower. There's not a gooder and a badder. We truly expand and become one with everything. The mind comes back in and then starts to judge and say, oh, this was good, this was bad, this was wrong, this was right. What we are all going through as we jump back and forth from the ego consciousness that is still connected to the matrix, that is still involved in fear, in worry, in pain, in illness of any kind. All of those manifestations of life's energy are distortions that occur because we have judged them to be so. So each time we reestablish the connection with the source, we come back into the state of oneness, we come back into the state of non-judgment, and then we can just ask. If we really don't know what to say or do in the moment, just ask, God, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to do here? And don't be afraid of that awkward pause, or that silence, or that moment that can stretch into an eternity where you really don't know what to say or to do. When you don't know, just wait until you do know. My purpose in doing this webinar live and for the public today was to introduce the work of the heart diamond and the concept of the heart diamond to a greater public. And so I would encourage you now, for those of you who are interested, on my same YouTube channel, the Heart Diamond playlist, which has 5 or 6 previously recorded videos about the heart diamond. For today's webinar, I asked my Heart Diamond community that has been meeting monthly since November 14th of 2015, prepare by researching 2 distinct concepts. Now, these concepts might be new to many of you. They might be familiar. The first one is simulated reality. This has also been called artificial intelligence. I have been talking about it today as the Matrix. I have even heard Metatron be referred to as an artificial intelligence. And I shared with some of you my own experience that is appearing in the consciousness of certain people's minds when they call Metatron. Appearing is a dark sphere which comes and suck their energy out of them. And I was given this experience so that I could see what other people were experiencing when they called Metatron. Now, I have never had this experience, but I know that some of you out there who are sincerely wishing to connect with Metatron are having this other entity or energy come forth first. And so a lot of what today's webinar is about learning how to get through that, past that, avoid it, around it, so that you are out of that simulated reality. And the other thing I asked them to look up was an E8 lattice. I sent them on Facebook a picture of what an E8 lattice was. Asked them to just Google it on Facebook, because when you come across a concept like this, this is a concept that is coming from quantum physics, which itself has only existed as a science for a relatively short number of years, less than 50, I would think. There are always those minds who have been ahead, like Tesla, who have been thinking in terms of quantum physics for a long time. But in terms of a modern science, quantum physics is fairly recent. And this E8 lattice concept is what mathematics and quantum physics are being able to demonstrate, all mathematical terms, what we spiritual people talk about in spiritual terms or healing terms or heart diamond terms. E8 lattice is basically, in very simple terms, an 8-dimensional of the matrix or lattice. The entire creation exists and has form. And we, diamond extenders, we are part of a similar matrix, which is the heart diamond matrix. So I don't ever want the term matrix to be associated only with the artificial negative matrix. A matrix is just a form within which something else exists. So this 8-dimensional is the exterior concept that we can have of how all of creation exists. And a Russian doll, where you have one doll inside of another, which is bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Them are different and yet the same. And we combine with the concept of the Russian dolls the holographic image. A hologram is, a holographic images. And we're trying to conceive of something that exists on many, many different dimensions simultaneously. Minds that are so limited in their ability to perceive, and we are so limited by our language in our ability to even to express what we see and feel on all these different levels. When we can see ourselves as beings of light that exist simultaneously as the center point of every matrix that we can imagine, we can choose to exist simultaneously at any other different point in the matrix. This is what makes time travel possible. This is what makes bilocation possible. This is what makes all the ascended master abilities possible. Is when you begin to manifest and exercise that freedom at other point anywhere in the matrix and experience it with the same clarity that you are experiencing this moment here and now, present in the physical body. If you in fact are here and now present in the physical body. Times when you connect to a voice that is taking you into other dimensions, many of you leave the body and don't continue to hear the webinar as it's being broadcast. And that's perfect that you go off and that you have your own experience. And then you'll come back and listen to the webinar again once it's been recorded, and you can hear what was said while you were absent. And also, always, whatever experiences you have, all of your experiences that you have with the source, however weird appear to be to you at this time, you should write them down, because lots of times you will understand them much later. Okay, I wrote different titles for this webinar. Titles that I wrote. Was becoming aware of your true multi-dimensional nature. Automatically liberates you from the mind control simulated reality. So basically, I was expressing it in different ways, but the overall topic is the same and should be quite clear. I mentioned that Metatron, the name of Metatron, is being used for some highly negative things these days. The name is being used for the evil entity in a recently popular video game, computer game. When I was looking it up on Google, I found out it is also the name of a website for sexual encounters, Metatron. I had my license plate, which has the name of Metatron on it, stolen off of my car, which I found very interesting as well. And one of my board members, former board members, at many very good channels are saying that Metatron is a divine being, and many other good channels are saying that Metatron is an evil artificial entity. And I asked her over a period of about a year if she had been able to come to a decision in her own mind as far as what Metatron was. And when she said no, I asked her to no longer be a board member. So I realized that what this is this is part of the mind control system that is being developed. It's not only being developed, it is actively practiced on many people at this time. David Wilcock has called it the voice of God. I think that's the military name for this program. But officially produced voice that presents itself as being the voice of God within the consciousness of people who are innocent, but who believe that they are truly hearing the voice of God, and so are doing reprehensible things, believing in their own hearts and minds that they are hearing the voice of God. This is an artificially, consciously constructed program that does serve certain people's interests. These people are often called the Illuminati, or many other names. The sole use of this voice is to deceive to believing that they are hearing the true inner divine voice of God. So that's really why I'm doing this video at this time. I know that many of you are going through many difficult circumstances in your life, just as I have been. A lot of us still want to look to outer sources for guidance, for assistance, for help, for confirmation. The urgency of our lives is such that really the only way we can be of service to our loved ones is to maintain that connection as much and as constantly, as truly and as purely as possible. Hence, the determination of the dark side, a false voice. Many people are listening to. So the criteria us have in terms of deciding which voice we are going to listen to at any given moment. It is a voice of pain and fear and anxiety, or is it a voice of forgiveness and love and joy? I gave my two sons a little French book, and I chose it just because of the title. I read a few pages and it seemed quite appropriate for both of them for totally opposite reasons. And the title of the book, Meditate, Then Act. And as we go about our day, okay, the first thing we want to do is connect to the source so that we are listening to that voice. And then the next step is to act on that voice, to do whatever that voice tells you to do. In my own mind, I know this has been a whole different dance. Some of us get stuck in not acting, get stuck in what choice do we make, and what is the best choice, and in trying to decide what is the best choice. To the whole judgmental mind, because it is only in the judgmental ego mind that a best choice exists. When we get into the connection in the now moment, then we can connect into each of the different aspects of our multidimensional being. Oh, for example, if we're dealing with an issue about what to eat, ask our body elemental. My body elemental has a name. I ask her what she wants me to eat, and sometimes I get a very clear answer. Sometimes I use a body reading through my hand. I run my hand over the menu, or of communicating with your body elemental to get an answer on that level. You can also connect to our higher self. You know, as far as what we wanted to do for work or for making money, or things we might want to get the point of view of our higher self, or our I am presence. Now, our I am presence, in my understanding, is the part of our being that is continuously connected to Source, to the Creator. And so when we connect to what we call our I am presence, to that Source, and then we go through a period to act, and then we judge the act after the fact, bad or wrong or right. And then when we come back into alignment with the true self, with the divine self, then we leave all the judging aside. and do and say in the moment. And then we are truly free. Then we are free of the past, because we're free of the mind, we're free of the judgments of the mind. It is in that freedom, in that love, in that joy, that we are automatically removed from simulated reality. So, the simulated reality. We don't want to pretend that it doesn't exist. We want to shift our focus from the point of view as the center point in that 8-dimensional lattice, and as the center point, we are using our consciousness like a film projector, are choosing to project our consciousness onto a specific film, a specific story, a specific slice of space and time. And beloveds, in this choice, we are truly free. Go through this process of moving into total freedom, we still have moments where we get sucked back into the matrix. And we still experience pain and fear and suffering and illness and any of the other multitude of negative energetic manifestations of the matrix. So what we can do now and at all times, heart diamond extenders, and even for those of you who have never heard of the heart diamond, but who live from the heart, come into your heart right now. See yourself as the center point of this huge matrix of 8-dimensional points of light in every direction, everywhere, around, above, below, in every dimension that exists. You are the center point. And now, within this space, is going to form the heart diamond matrix specifically, which is like a double-pointed pyramid, for those of you who are not familiar with the shape, with the general shape. And from within your center point, all of the other heart diamond people and all of the other people that live in the heart, an illumined, enlightened heart, lighten up as if the switch was turned on this matrix within us. Okay, now know that this matrix exists all the time, because time and space. And so, each one of us as individuals are always connected to this consciousness at all times. We can visualize it as we just did, crystalline matrix of points of light. We can visualize it as an ocean or a sea of love. It doesn't really matter how you can feel or to see this connection. To feel it. To feel the oneness that you have. Other being that is living from the heart at this time. And in this place that we're calling Earth. Millions of beings in so many infinite dimensions that are broadcasting light and joy and wisdom and healing on levels of sound, on levels of light, crystalline matrices, on the level of plants, on the levels of crystals. True that the cabal is trying very hard with HARP and with chemtrails and with Monsanto and with all types of chemicals to hinder the inevitable progression of the human body into the ascended form. They cannot permanently stop it because this is happening to all of life. And what is sometimes being described as a solar event, at which time the emanations from the sun are so intense that everyone is automatically stepped up into this expanded state of awareness that are present here today, experience on and off as we go through meditation and go through all our spiritual practices. We get used to having experiences of expanded states of consciousness. For others, it could happen in a second. And it doesn't mean that they will die. It just means it's going to be very strange and unusual, just as it was strange and unusual for each of us. The first time we saw or heard color or saw our body as we floated somewhere in the universe above, we went out and experienced another planet or a totally different state of consciousness or a totally different time. For each of us, our multi-dimensional experiences have tended to be unique because we are here as the way showers. We are here as the helpers, so that those who are going through it for the first time will have someone that they can talk to. Someone who will listen and say, everything is going to be okay. I know what you're talking about. I went through it too. And so as long as you are holding that space of love and trust in however this whole thing is playing out in each of our lives, when you hold that space for yourself and for another, you are expanding the light. The whole entire light of the matrix is being expanded by your individual addition to it. For every single one of us. Every single moment that we add light and love and joy into our world, wherever and however that world is or appears to be, we are lighting up the entire matrix, dimension in which it exists. Not just here on Earth, not just in this solar system, not just in this galaxy, not just in the third dimension, not just in the fifth or sixth or higher dimensions, but in every dimension in which life exists. This is what true oneness is. So every time you unite with the oneness of the source, you are uniting with the oneness of all that is, regardless of the limitations of your perception. So you are lighting up and giving love to the oneness, or you are increasing the fear and the distortions. Every manifestation of your individual energy enhances from the field of oneness. And it's all okay. There will be times stuck in the matrix. And there will be times when we are raised into the collective divine consciousness. Where we are in is part of the divine unfoldment. It's part of the divine plan. There is a greater plan. I wanted so much to do this live broadcast today, just like I wanted to do it for the eclipse. I couldn't get it to work. Today, fortunately, my husband was here and we got it to work this time. And I'm very grateful to him and to the source of all that is that we were allowed to do this today. But every day, every moment is an opportunity to be of service, to be love and light. That happens is perfect. And it is part of the divine unfoldment. And if you spend one instant judging the past as being good or bad, then that is one moment that you have denied yourself perfection of now. So that's your choice. Are you going to be now, or are you going to be yesterday, or 5 minutes ago, or 10 days from now? Being present now is being out the matrix, because the matrix only has power in time. So when you remove yourself from time and its limited power, you automatically and simultaneously remove yourself from the simulated reality matrix. All that goes together. So we are constantly being given guidance and advice in order to live in a state of gratitude, forgiveness, and whatever our immediate situation requires, to be one of healing for our brothers and sisters. And sisters include every single person in humanity, every single one. We cannot exclude one single human being with all that is. And so every person that comes to us in whatever fashion is God coming in form, asking you to see who you are in this moment. Who are you? Who are you with this person in this moment? Are you judgment? Who are you? You fall back into the judging state, and you fall back into fear, and you fall back into questioning. It's really okay. It's going to happen. And when it happens to you, it helps you to be more compassionate for when it happens to you from another person. And that they are having their moments too, their moments of judgment. But their moments of judgment have no more effect on reality than your moments of judgment do. Of going beyond the simulated reality and judgments is to return your consciousness to the state of oneness, of connection with the source. So basically, all of our meditations should be moments of practice, of listening to the inner voice, and then obeying. So I'm going from the point of view that we already have made the distinction, inner voice and the artificial one. And it might sound funny to talk about practicing obedience, but it's a real gift and choice to be able to go from the listening to the action. Meditate, then action. Listen in your times of meditation, and then act. And the whole purpose of going through that developmental or training stage to the point where we can be in the moment in any stressful situation, to hear what is required in that moment. I think we can all acknowledge that it is much easier to hear that voice when we are in a calm state, when we're in meditation, listening to music, or doing our yoga, or whatever it is. It's very easy to listen to that voice. Is beating us up or threatening us or doing anything else that we perceive to be an attack. It is a lot harder to tune into that voice. And so we use meditation to practice tuning into that voice, which is good. Why I have always encouraged my students when they do channeling to write down whatever messages that they receive, so that they can then go back later and decide what they are going to do with the messages. Are they going to act upon them or not? Because you must be responsible for whatever actions you take, regardless of what voice you think was talking to you during your channeling session. So that's why these practice or meditation sessions are important, to those voices. Then we need to move into obedience, into acting upon them. And it's really hard. Always trust voice is correct, I guess. And to want to ask the question. There's still this side of that thinks it knows what's best and that doesn't always want to ask and direction. And sometimes I feel very in connection with the source, and I feel like it's all in the flow. Sometimes I have the thought, well, maybe it's just my ego. Don't really know which the right answer is. And so then I just barometer of which one is love and peace and joy. That has always been my barometer, from even when before I formally began any kind of formal spiritual path. I just knew that if it made me joyful, it had to be somehow right. And that joy, that kind of joy, is never at the expense of another. Joy should never make another person be sad. It should be a joy that can be experienced by all everywhere, and that adds to the joy of the oneness that we all are. So, to sum this all up, our process to oneness disconnects us from the simulated artificial reality matrix, while simultaneously reconnecting us. I'm going to say that again. Of return to oneness disconnects us from the simulated reality matrix, simultaneously reconnecting us. That is. So it's a process. It's a movement. And in one of the images of the E8 that appeared on YouTube was a video, both being formed and of the movement of the energy through this lattice. And this was what I was wanting to share with the Heart Diamond Extenders group, being an 8-dimensional form of the heart diamond, where you can see that it is never still, it's never static, it's never a 2-dimensional flat image. It is a multi-dimensional image of energy and consciousness flowing and this is where the spinning comes in. And in later sessions, we'll talk more about the physics of it, the double helix matrix, about the flower of life correlation to all of this stuff. We have a lot of wonderful subjects that we will be discussing in but what I wanted to leave us with today, our conscious participation is required as we voluntarily release the former fearful reality and allow, again by conscious choice, to be joy, peace, and love. So I want to thank you today. I'm very excited about many of the new things that are coming forward, all of humanity, and for this group, for the House of Metatron and Métis, many projects that are in their developmental stages, which I will be sharing publicly as soon as possible, has to do with having spiritual Airbnbs all over the world, do with having spiritual retreats, do with developing many different aspects us are doing so that we have a growing community of support for each other, for all of us who are living this spiritual path with total dedication, who are not in it for the money, to be of service, who are in it to higher earth and all of humanity on their path of ascension. It is for us to have a home where we can find mutual support and where we can all go forward on this path of love and light that we have chosen. Thank you all for listening today. I thank all of you that will be listening to the recorded version. I will let you know when the next Heart Diamond community will occur. We usually have it on Saturday. Hopefully it will be around the time of December 12th. And I will get back to you on that. Thank you again. Love and blessings to everyone.